What we're going to be doing today is basically speak about your relationship and how culture actually was part of it. And that's it. So we'll start very basically with your introductions, how you will introduce yourself to people, and then we'll move to the story, how it happened. I remember Hamad told me some crazy stuff about. He said that there is a crazy story behind it, but I know just.
There's several. I don't know which ones you're thinking of, so this will be fun.
Well, we can start with one of them if you want to.
Real quick, when you say introductions, you mean formal? Like he's going to say, "I'm a instructor," whatever.
As you want. It's just tell people who are you. Recently, I've been introducing myself as a DJ, and I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Because I bought the DJ device for my son. It's like a proper one. Okay. And I want to learn because he needs me to help him to learn. So now I'm figuring out how to use the device. So sometimes I can introduce myself as a DJ. So
that's perfect. My initials are actually DJ. So that
so
maybe I should start doing that.
My formal name would be DJ Fitz, I think, or Dr. DJ. I don't know. Anywho, Hamad, want to start with how or introduce yourself or how this relationship have started, or how do you start with?
I don't have a big introduction of myself, so I'm just Hamad, and that's it.
That's it? That's what you want to do? What about you, Daniel?
My name is Daniel Struckfuss. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, in the United States currently. Not from there originally. I've done a number of things throughout my career, but the common denominator is healthcare and technology. So,
okay,
we'll leave it at that, I suppose.
Okay, that's good. But where are you from originally in the States?
I'm originally from the state of Oregon.
Oregon.
Yep, the one just north of California. So West Coast.
West Coast.
One above it.
Then Midwest.
Where Hamad and I met, yes, so and then moved to the Midwest, yes.
Oh, okay. So you met in Oregon?
We met in Oregon, yes.
Yeah. I've seen St. Louis once. I've been there like 2 times. And at that time, they said that it has the highest rate of...
crime?
Not crime, I think like killing, actually, or something like that. So I was so afraid. But I went there, but... It's just,
well, the thing about St. Louis is it's a quite large... St. Louis, the city, sure. But then there's the metro area, which has nearly 3 million people.
Yeah.
And like any city in any part of the world, there are parts to avoid and lovely parts. So it's mostly lovely.
And by the way, just a quick comment, because I've lived in the States for at least, I would say 3 years. And I'm really hating the fact that everyone now is trying to, in the media at least, trying to focus more on like, the crime rates and so on. Can we tell people that's just media? Or do you agree with it or not? You're still alive, I mean.
I barely made it here, obviously. So I sort of just crawled off the plane in a pool of blood. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I agree with that statement. Media needs to sell itself, and most humans around the world are motivated primarily through fear, unfortunately. So in order to really get those stories hot and shareable and clickable and all these things.
Yeah. So they highlight
these. Unfortunately, we focus too much on. I don't know that it's unique to the U.S. We just happen to be the
problem is what I'm seeing right now is actually the Arab media is focusing a lot on the downsides of the States in general. I don't know why, but I hate that because I live there. I know the States, and I don't know that States, but I've been at least into 4 to 5 states, and everyone.
And it's a big country, right?
It is. It's huge. Yes. And every state of them has something special to me, to be honest. I slept in Missouri for about 2 weeks. I camped there. I visited California. I've lived in Urbana-Champaign.
Oh yeah, that's
Illinois.
not far.
Yeah,
at all.
And then I went to Missouri a couple of times to get my my cruiser, my bike, and then went to New York, went to Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. All of them are special to me, to be honest. All of them are nice, has very lovely stuff, and anyone didn't see the greenery of the States, or let's say the national parks, they don't know actually what is the States, in my opinion. Okay, we can kick off this by taking, just some nuggets about your relationship to Daniel, Hamad. How did you meet And what's the story? First of all, how long you've been knowing each other?
Quick side note: Have you been to St. Louis?
No.
You haven't. Okay. How long have we known each other?
You should go there. They have a very large arch. You
I
need to see
think-
it.
We do. We have a large arch. You would love it.
Okay.
It's half of McDonald's.
That's one unique fun fact about Hamad.
Yeah.
He loves arches,
Why?
specifically large arches. No,
That sounds weird now, but
That should be deleted from.
I just made it up.
you can always say it because it's just half McDonald's. So it's
That's right.
like half a meal.
Yeah. Be open-minded.
Actually, we thought McDonald's is only an M.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's more to it.
Okay. So how did you meet? What's the story?
I mean, we met on campus. Daniel used to work for Starbucks on campus. And Starbucks was a big thing for the Saudi group studying at the university. And I wanted to practice. I'm not sure if Daniel remembers that
I'm curious.
vividly, but he was really nice to everyone in the store. And I needed to practice my English, to speak to someone. And I used to get my tea, not coffee.
From Starbucks.
Yeah, green tea, because
Oh, yeah. Green tea.
yes, at the beginning I did not really drink the American coffee and the black coffee, and so I used to get my tea and just be on the side of the bar and just talk to him. And he was nice, talking to me all the time. And one time I asked him about his break time, and they brought Saudi coffee to the place. And that maybe was the work-free, talk, because he was in his break, not working behind the counter. Mm-hmm. And I brought my coffee with me. And then the friendship started.
Do you remember in what year was this?
2006.
2006.
Probably the first half of 2006, yes.
Okay. Do you remember any of this?
I do. Yeah. I remember, I mean, talking across the counter was a normal thing, and just in terms of being on that side, right? So I don't have a vivid memory of that, but I do remember the offer to bring Arabic coffee, Saudi coffee, and I remember thinking like, that's different. I don't even know, I'm not sure that I knew what that was. I think in my brain, I probably assumed it was more like a Turkish coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was new and different, and I liked Hamad as well, and thought, yeah, of course, why not?
And then what was your intention at that time? Meaning that, was it only to create friends or just to chat and, just to practice your English? Or, I mean, it's just, being Hamad and trying to...
Yeah, I was being me, but I tried to practice my English. And, Oregon is a very liberal state. If we speak about the valley, we call it the valley area, where the big towns.
Where all the people in the state live.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So coming from here without any prior experience with traveling, it wasn't really easy, but it wasn't difficult to adjust to so many things. The way people look, the tattoos, the subjects, the long hair, so finding someone to talk to and make friends. And I'm a social person. They came, from Riyadh to Oregon with a massive, base of friendship with so many people. So it wasn't easy for me to be alone. So having a friend, a local friend, was an intention. And also practicing my English was an intention too.
Okay, so it was kind of a driver to drive that relationship. Okay, and then so 2006 and now in 2026, so you're technically knowing each other for about 20 years now. Inshallah. Inshallah, hope it will last forever. Okay, so after getting to know each other, can you give me some of milestones or things or stories that happened along,
In general, I felt really comfortable talking to Daniel about things because, religion was a very heated area to talk about, some differences, addressing these differences.
In general.
In general, yes. So Daniel provided that comfortable, space to speak about these things easily and showed me, a different idea. I did not have that idea before.
What kind of idea?
An idea about the West.
Yeah.
I had no knowledge about the West, America. Okay. I remember from my childhood, I watched some shows, etc., but no big, or clear idea about the West. But I was a little cautious because it was post 9/11. And I even didn't know that there was a state called Oregon. So a cousin of mine told me. I told him actually.
That's true for many Americans as well.
Oh yeah, true.
Oregon.
I asked a cousin who studied in the U.S. for a while. I said, I need a beautiful place naturally, friendly people, and not that expensive to live in. And he said, just go to Oregon. I said, okay. And he helped me applying, and I went there. And Eugene was really beautiful. I love etymology in general. So the name Eugene itself, the meaning of Eugene, actually the beautiful birth. Yeah, because U means beautiful, gene means genes. The original place or birth of something.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the name Eugene itself, and Eugene is really beautiful.
Wow.
Okay, so Eugene, is it a town or?
It's a town, but I believe people from Eugene don't like to be called other than a city. So people in Eugene, they if you call Eugene, it's a university or a college town.
Yeah,
they don't like that.
Yeah, that's true. Because town makes it sound like it's
small,
too small, no clear identity of the place, etc. But Eugene has an identity. Eugene is a very beautiful, crazy positive place.
That's nice. So, speaking about 9/11, by the way, did you have any thoughts about Hamad when you met the first time? Especially that it was it was a very heated era.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the way, if that's the right way to put it. Or how did you feel about this kind of approach, giving you coffee, talking to you?
Well, working at the Starbucks on campus, as Hamad knows, was very diverse. So you had people coming through that store, right, from Oregon, from California, from the middle of the States, from the East Coast, from the middle. It was quite diverse. Sure, most of the students were probably from Oregon or somewhere in the United States. But so that's the first thing. The other thing is there was a general, I'll just speak for myself because this was my memory, but my perception of like the Saudi students in, relatively speaking, was that they used to come in groups. So they would always come in. There'd be at least like 3, 4, sometimes 5 of them. And these are, again, my early memories, not having, interacted, at least to my knowledge, with somebody that I knew was Saudi before this point. And so they would come in groups that we smelled really good with some type of, they were wearing Calvin Klein or some type of cologne. And I remember that was an association I made, like, they're, and then at least the ones that came to Starbucks, they would buy their coffee or tea or what have you. And at that time, you could sit outside and smoke. So that was also a generality. Yeah, not saying all of them did, because they didn't, but some of them did, and that was maybe something that they could do and enjoy, etc. So those were like, but very, all of those things were not really unusual per se. They were just things that I associated. And then I think a fourth thing would be they were always quite friendly, very warm. Not, they didn't give off, again, generally speaking, a vibe of not wanting to interact. They were always very kind and made sure to, wherever they were with their English language ability, yes, be as respectful and polite as they could. And so with Hamad, I remember pretty early on, as you know, he has a very warm personality and he is very social. And so that combination of being warm, having pretty good English, even though at the time I'm sure you considered yourself not good at it, but
so it's communicative enough.
We could have a conversation. Sure, maybe not like today, but Hamad could carry on a conversation.
It wasn't as funny.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't as funny. But I knew there was potential, so I stuck with the friendship.
So you were there after your bachelor's degree or before bachelor's degree?
No. I went there to study, to do my bachelor's.
Okay, yeah.
So but I was an older student. I wasn't 18.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got some flashbacks from Toronto when I was 18 in Toronto, so yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine you now being that person. 18.
Another thought, that just occurred to me is you did have quite a full beard then.
That should be deleted. yes,
I'll leave that up to you guys.
No, it's okay.
But this is one of my real memories. Yeah. And it wasn't in my mind, honestly, it wasn't like a good or a bad thing. It was just one of those things I was like, oh, he's got a large beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the beard in Oregon wasn't an issue at all because of the hippies. Yeah. The hippie culture is really big in Eugene.
Really
Eugene was the town, the city was the summer capital for hippies to come from all around the country.
So be honest, were you a hipster?
No.
Are you sure?
A hippie, you mean?
A hippie? What's the difference? Sorry.
No, hipster is a modified hippie.
Hipsters live in Portland.
Yes.
Hippies live in Eugene.
Hipsters ride fancy motorcycles. And
skinny jeans, mustache, beanies.
Yeah.
Fancy food. Fancy healthy food.
Portlandia, if you've heard of it, they make fun of the hipster culture that is very much a Portland Oregon thing.
So you weren't hipster or hippie? No.
None.
You're just Saudi.
Yeah, I was just a Saudi and still just a Saudi.
That's more than enough.
A special Saudi.
He's special, but he does not like to say that. But I know this person. I mean, one of my colleagues 2 or 3 days ago listened to one of the voice notes that he sent me on WhatsApp. We were interpreting in the booth. And he said, I love this person. I don't know who he is, but he's so relaxed. His sound is very, very calming.
I can kill you with my voice.
Actually, he commented. She commented on the way you were talking about. You felt really like a person who's just satisfied with the world, satisfied with themselves. They don't have any issues because she was always complaining about traffic and so on. And we just came to the booth, and you were talking to us on WhatsApp, and you were just calm and and the way you usually,
Yeah, it's very disarming naturally.
Yeah.
Which is the only time it works for any personality is when it's natural.
Yes.
You can't teach it. It's just you either have it or you don't.
You have that effect, so maybe you can be my shrink. Sometimes I'll ask you to
if you need one.
His rates go up every year. So
if you need one, yes.
Okay, so then you got to know each other, and obviously your relationship, developed, and you moved from the. So did you do a lot of breaks, kind of coffee, or how did you sustain that relationship?
Then we stayed friends. We met with other group friends. And Daniel was nice enough to introduce me to so many people, including his, lovely, respected family. I know his parents, his siblings.
Yeah, he came several times.
So, and actually, and this is a story I will tell now. I was active with the Muslim Student Association on campus. And I was approached by another student association seeking to arrange some kind of, educational panel to speak about religion. And I met that girl, and after meeting her, I met Daniel, and they said, Daniel, I met a girl, and, I think you would make a perfect match. And he said to me, what's her name? I said, Jenna. And then he said, actually, we know each other and we are interested in each other. And he said this, I'm quoting him. He said, this could be a sign of God. Then they got engaged and they got married. So I love that. I really do.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice story.
Yeah.
What
And
do you have to
actually,
add on it?
Jenna's family actually was my first experience visiting a family, an American family, in their home. They hosted me for Thanksgiving once, and it was really nice. Very open talk, friendly, and comfortable. And I went there with 2 other Saudis, and it was a very wonderful experience.
You must be a very special person and the other 2 Saudis, because I think in the States the Thanksgiving is more to family and closer people. So people hosting you for Thanksgiving is always something appreciated, highly appreciated. So
I'm not sure if I'm special or not, but anyway, yes, Thanksgiving is a very special occasion for sure, especially in towns in America. When it's Thanksgiving, the movement within the city goes down. So if you are alone, you feel really left alone, and it's
better to be with.
Yeah. So that was really a nice gesture for sure.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And can you talk to us a little bit more about your activity? Both were you active also in the clubs or you just focused on your studies, just working?
Yeah, we
Starbucks?
went to side-by-side universities, but the common denominator was Starbucks.
Okay.
And so I felt like I knew everybody, and it didn't really matter, the school or the institution. And I was involved with some different organizations, but most of we collaborated, to the point you just made with my wife, Jenna. We collaborated with some of the official, the Muslim students, or the Saudi Student Association. What was it called? Christian Collegiate Fellowship was an organization I was involved with. So we did some panels and some other things that were all part of just, I think, at least from my perspective, trying to be open-minded and
100%
have conversations and get people to talk and have dialogue, and not, as you said at that time, post 9/11, et cetera, reinforcing tropes or stereotypes, et cetera. So I think that was part of our friendship.
Without Daniel and Jenna being involved in that occasion exactly, I think I wouldn't, have done it if they were not involved. Because, having a friend there says to you, it's okay.
Yeah.
So
you can ask the questions
just
relaxedly, and
you feel comfortable, around friends. You're in safe hands. Yes, you're a man, you're older, you're this and that, but still, nobody is need free of friends. Yeah, friendship is always a good thing.
Since we're speaking about family, I think I know that you've got 2 daughters, and both of them have Arabic names. And actually, your wife actually has also an Arabic name.
Yeah, it's all.
So do you want to talk to us about it a bit?
Hamad, who speaks Arabic, obviously can chime in with the sounds, but it reminds me a little bit of, there's a movie called My Big Fat Greek Wedding that came out years ago, and the dad or the grandfather, I forget, is always talking about how everything is Greek.
Oh,
He's always like anything. He's got the Windex bottle and stuff. So there's a little bit of that going on. But so my oldest daughter is Ayla. We just say Ayla with, American accent or whatever. And it's spelled Aylah. And we like the spelling and we like the sound. So the sound of it, it's a common sound, Ayla, right? Or however you say it. So depending on my understanding.
I insist it's Alia.
There's that, and there's also an H sound at the beginning, a Hayla, right?
Hayla,
And that's a different
we have
meaning.
a very Saudi popular name, Hayla.
There's that, and then if the Turkish meaning, I believe, is moonlight or something like this. So it's a common sound, right? So that's our first daughter. Our second daughter is intentionally an Arabic name, so we like the sound Ayla, and the meaning was like, this is good, depending on what you read, it's good. Hibba we chose because of the meaning, gift from God, gift of God. So we chose based on the meaning, and then sort of the sound followed. But of course, we like the sound as well. So Hibba is obviously
Hibba
Arabic name.
And your wife's name is also considered Arabic.
That's right.
Jenna.
Jenna.
But most Arabs, when they, because I had a friend in Oregon who was blessed with a baby girl there, Saudi friend, and he named her Jenna, but they spelled that with a J, which is also common in English. I mean, not that common. With the G is more common.
Actually, with the J, I would say.
The J is more common.
Really?
Yeah. For the name Jenna.
Oh yeah.
Because usually Jenna is short for Jennifer. And Jennifer is 9.9 times out of 10 a J. So if you're shortening it like I'm Daniel, Dan, same idea. But Jenna, Genna, that is on her birth certificate.
Okay.
So that's actually her name.
I have actually a niece named Jenna.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pretty name first, and I think it's pretty common also in Saudi, at least for our generation. I would say. I think we come from the same period. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you born in the 90s?
No, 80s.
80s, late 80s?
Mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
I'm an elder millennial.
Okay, yeah.
If you will, and I will.
And you will forever.
I will.
Yeah. I'm the beginning of the 90s, so.
Okay, yes.
But I think
I'm your elder then.
Sorry?
I'm your elder then.
Yeah, of course, both of you. And you're still...
No.
No, he's 29. You didn't know that?
He is 29, but my way to calculate this is having how many gray hairs on your face.
That's right.
So I think I'm the youngest just because
That's
I
fair.
have the least amount
That's
of
right, yeah.
Yeah, we can't count something else.
I was going to say, if we're going up here...
We can't count something else, and then you will lose this competition, definitely.
Yeah.
And the glasses, too.
All depends on what you zoom in
That's
on.
just from Harry Potter, you know?
If you speak of style, then this is also style.
I know. Okay, I will retreat here. And then I want to just... how many times have you been to Saudi?
This is my first time to Saudi.
Oh, yeah?
I've been...
Oh. That's nice, but how do you feel about the Arab culture in general, at least the GCC culture? Because I think Doha, Saudi, and all those areas are very close to each other. They do have their differences, of course.
Of course.
But they're still very similar in terms of culture. Yeah,
well, I'll say, speaking, like a typical American here, from my experience, I always have to emphasize that part of my identity. Being in Saudi for only about a week or so now, genuinely, people are very warm, and that has stood out to me. You whether you're going into the local coffee shop or visiting a new place, asking for directions at the Daria, wherever, people are very warm. Like, they want to help. They're very kind. And that has definitely made an impression on me. Like, you notice it. Living in Doha, because of Saudi friends, I was able to meet some local Qataris, which was wonderful. But without the Saudi connections, I would say, based on experiences of getting to know other expats while I was there. So, for example, short story, within, I think, 3 days of landing and arriving after we moved there, we were getting picked up by a Qatari and welcome to my country and let me take you to my favorite restaurant. Welcome, welcome, welcome. and again, new friends, new expats that we had just met, they were looking at me like, who is this guy? We've been here for 2 years and we've yet to have like a real sincere interaction beyond, hello, thank you kind of a thing with a local. Because in Doha, as we know, it's mostly expats, foreigners, and it's the Qataris are a minority. So you have to be very intentional. So that was sort of a fun, which goes back to my Saudi friends to make those introductions, and was very thankful for that.
I think you have a pattern of developing relationships with other cultures. The way I see it, I mean, hosting Hamad and getting to know him at the when you were both of you almost 18, 19 years old is something also a little bit special, to be honest. Not a lot of people are thinking to take that effort to get to know someone who's so different in terms of their culture, their language, and so on. So I think both of you, and I know that's already happening with Hamad. He likes to be social. He likes to to communicate with a lot of people. Who likes to be himself all the time also. But I think also it requires some kind of effort from you.
Yes.
And that's something I miss, to be honest. I've lived in the UK for about 3.5 years now. I still developed no friends yet. Not even Arabs, but I don't know. But I'm just... speaking in generalities, of course, sometimes, in Western cultures, it can be quite hard because it's just a different culture, different dynamic. And I was just speaking with somebody recently, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about their time living in Western Europe. I want to say Belgium maybe, or France. And they were saying that they'd been there for X number of years, similar to the point you just made. And we're like, and I think I talked to my neighbor twice. And, the way they explained it, they put in some effort trying to get to know people. And it was just sort of like, well, you're not from here. Yeah. Just to be fair, for my side, sorry to interrupt here, but to be fair, to be honest, although I was at the nice part of UK, I was in Northern Ireland, and I didn't try. So that's why I say I think I like that. I lack that kind of, ability to develop. But to be honest, and just to be fair, I think if I tried, I might have been able, but it's not me.
You're a friendly, outgoing guy. I'm sure
I'm an introvert.
Definitely
I'm an introvert, but pretend to be an extrovert most of the time.
You pretend.
Yes.
I
mean,
it works.
It does work. Yeah, but
you've got a lot of practice.
So for me now, I think maybe me and you will be communicating more. We'll be friends. But because Hamad introduced you, so then I can start something.
But this is how friendship works, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know you before Hamad, and here we are having this conversation, and so.
And by the way, I said I love the word etymology. I love this concept. The word conversation originally didn't mean to speak to someone. Yeah, it meant actually to be familiar with. It has this connotation of intimacy and being close to.
That's beautiful.
Understood, not just conversation, understood by talking. And that tells you that when you want to speak to someone, these elements should be there.
Yeah.
And the definition in some, thoughts of mankind or human beings is what they say. How do they say it in English? حيوان ناطق.
الهوى الناطق?
حيوان ناطق.
I'm not sure. I would just say
it's from the ancient Greek philosophy.
Okay.
It's
a creature, a speaking creature. You want?
Yeah.
Or do you want more like حيوان?
Yeah, حيوان means حياة. حيوان is not an animal. It's a living thing.
As a حيوان versus nabat.
So and even in the Quran, when in the story when Allah created Adam, immediately the verse after that, وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها, that God taught Adam the names or nouns I mean, it depends on the interpretation of that according to the scholars, but that's part of the language. So having a language, communicating with others, that what makes people, around each other. So language, friendship, is really important. So if you meet the nicest person ever, as described by others, and they don't talk, then you wouldn't know. So people have to speak. And in any relationship, this is just an idea of mine. In any relationship, if people can't talk, if they can't speak, then they can't do anything else. If they can't speak, then they can do everything else.
You cannot really communicate.
Yeah, so going back to the etymology of the word conversation, and actually I loved, later on when I learned this idea about the original meaning of the word, I loved that it was actually my idea of having a conversation. Because if it was merely to speak to someone, then I could just speak to anyone.
Without having further developments.
Yes.
It's a good clarification.
Yeah. So
what I hear here is basically two people have different languages, different cultures, but they do have that kind of interest to get to know more people and get to know cultures and so on. So I want to highlight, if it's possible, some of the stories that could be related or attached to cultural differences or language differences. Things like that happen. I'm sure that you've been friends for 20 years. I'm sure that there will be some kind of stories, either crazy ones or not crazy ones, that might highlight this fact, which is you're two people who are just interested in cultures and conversations and being friends to each other and develop that and being able to nurture such a relationship for 20 years is something. So can you give us some tips and tricks maybe, or some stories from...
Tips and tricks.
Yeah.
but also I'm interested in stories.
No, I think it was just...
the beans.
I think it was just natural. I think it just was natural.
Okay.
So
it's not forced.
Yeah, it wasn't forced.
Staying in touch has been very organic, I think, for both of us.
Yes, and I would say actually, Daniel has been really so kind. I'm not saying this because he's here, but there is no occasion in the Muslim calendar without him really, sending me a message, and so he's been there, although we haven't seen each other actually for a while. The last time we met before this time was in Qatar, in Doha. I visited him there, and it was a great visit, seeing him and his family. But he's been there really all the time, and when he told me that he's coming, to Riyadh, then I loved that idea, really. It was like, it's like announcing the Eid for me. Yeah. Because Daniel is really a great friend. I feel so, just myself around him. And as I said earlier, his family was really nice. Although my mother wouldn't like this, but his mom actually said to me, "I'm your American mom. I'm your mom here while being away from your mom." Yeah, it's, and she sent me a very nice, handwritten letter. Beautiful, beautiful. Made my not just day, just made my everything. It was beautiful, and his mom actually was nice not only to me, was nice to the people I introduced them to her. I was with a friend in another town, not Eugene, and I was with him in a coffee shop, Saudi friend. And
just random, yeah.
Yeah, and she just walked in the coffee shop, and he lived in that town, and then she was nice to them, to the entire family, to him, his wife, his kid at that time, I believe, Khalid, yes. So this sense of really pure human relationship, friendship, family. I don't consider, actually, I consider Daniel as a family. Not just him, his entire family. So
Ibrahim is lucky then. You'll have an extended family here and there.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is true.
And by the way, what do you do in Qatar? Are you still living in Qatar?
No.
Okay.
I live in St. Louis now.
Okay. So you had a project to work there, and then you came back.
Yeah, I've done a number of things over the years. Currently, I'm a co-founder of an operating holding company that invests in frontier market economies. And we're currently invested in a healthcare vertical in Kenya.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about Kenya these days. I think
it's a beautiful part of the world. You should visit.
I should. I've been hearing a lot of good, developments and a lot of things happening in Kenya. And before I just knew that Kenya is in Africa and that's it. But now I'm hearing a lot of things
But it is in Africa.
I know. What I'm saying is, I used to know only.
I checked Kenya once. I want to go with Ibrahim, but
there's a direct flight now
the resorts there were the most expensive.
Is it?
Resorts.
Oh, resorts. Yes, on the Indian Ocean, on the coast.
I don't really remember now, but when I checked, it was really super.
There's options. Maybe it was the timing. I don't know.
Maybe the season.
It really is. I mean, I'm biased, but everyone I know that goes and visits, and they're just like, wow, this is Nairobi is, excuse me, near the equator, but because of its altitude, it's something like a mile high. You don't deal with the humidity and the, mosquitoes and things like this in the way that you would if you were, down at sea level. So it's all year round, something like 70 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So what is that? 15 to 20,
I would say.
20, yeah.
That's good. That's nice. And then what are you doing now in Saudi? Just visiting?
It's both business and pleasure, but the other way around. Starting with pleasure, meaning seeing friends, catching up. And to your point earlier, it's with the friendship. I was thinking about this as you were talking. It's like we just pick up where we left off.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's sort of a unique thing.
Yeah.
Like it just occurred to me, like when I first saw you, it was like amazing. Now I'm in your country, and it was just like get in the car and let's we just keep going. Yeah, that's a special friendship, I think, where when that happens, where you have that level of comfortability.
Yeah, I always say that friendship, the true friendship, is the one that you can literally pick it up at any time. So one of my best friends lives now in the east coast of Saudi, and because I also study and go a lot abroad and travel a lot because of my work, we see each other like every 3 to 4 years. But I think it's the same feeling. Once we see them, we still remember the last time we met. And, we continue the conversation. And for us, the night will not be completed without shawarma. Because at that time, before, it was the only thing that we can afford as kiddos. But now it's still the thing.
Shawarma is expensive now.
Now it is. But I mean, at that time was, the night will not be completed without having like a nice shawarma and good conversation.
By the way, this is not to underestimate the value of Daniel, but people in Oregon are really nice. I'm not sure about the United States because, I was there for about 5 years, but I did not really have that great experience with other places. I visited California for a little bit, visited Seattle for, now and then. But I knew Oregon. I almost visited every place in Oregon. But the people...
Eastern Oregon too?
Yeah. I went to Bend.
That's central.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So people in Oregon, people around campus in Eugene and Portland, both, are really nice. yes, maybe sometimes they lack knowledge about who we are. But after this big wave of Saudi students studying their families, I mean, I was there, my sister with her husband and children. My mother stayed with us for about a year there to visit the hospital. My youngest brother was there too to study. So, like, a big chunk of my family was there. So, think about the other Saudis. So, but people are really nice. I remember one time there was a little falafel place by the side of the street in Eugene, Oregon, Alex. I still remember this guy's name. And one time I forgot to feed the meter for the car. And when I came running, he said, just don't worry, I put some coins because I wouldn't allow them to give a ticket to such a nice guy like yourself. That was a very nice thing.
Yeah.
Really nice. And the professors, I almost befriended every professor who taught me. So I'm still in connection with them. One of them actually, Keith Walters, Professor Keith Walters of sociolinguistics. He's well known among some Arabs because he lived in Tunisia for about 6 years. Most Tunisians actually, especially in the field of linguistics, know him. He needed to talk to someone about, his health condition during COVID. And we had a nice meeting actually over Skype for about 2 hours, video, talking about he was frustrated going to the supermarket and not finding his, favorite ice cream flavor. And he was talking to me about this. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really just a formal relationship between a former student and the professor, talking about linguistics and the language issues. No, it was very, So people in Oregon are really friendly, and I'm still thankful to that cousin who advised me to go to Oregon.
Yeah.
And I believe when you approach people, any people, with this, friendly, voice, friendly face, people had no other choice except to pay the favor back. So if you're nice to people, they will be nice to you. So I think most of the Saudi experience in the US was good, really. Speaking about, Oregon in general, my experience in Oregon, the university at the formal level or the friendly level was nice. People around us, neighbors, etc., were nice. Friends from here and there were nice. Actually, one time, I had a neighbor. Actually, you lived in his apartment afterwards in Willamette Street.
Mm-hmm. Above?
Yeah, he was in the apartment above me. And like a year or two after I moved from that place, his wife called me and she said, I have this a surprise birthday party for Luke, and they want to invite you because you're so special. I haven't seen him for a while, and he was a neighbor. And then she said that, I was really touched. Mm. People treat you with. When I used to go to the hospital or the clinic with my mother, because I used to translate for her, the doctors were just, amazing. So, and I remember this. One of the first linguistics courses I took at the university, I was taught by this professor, Kerry Benham. Kerry Benham teaches now in Japan. He was this hippie, professor, great guy. Mm-hmm. The class was big. The international students in that class were about 3 only. And one time I came early, and then he came into the classroom, and he said, Hamad, you're from Saudi, yes? I said, yeah. And then he said, we don't know a lot about your culture. You have to be a good ambassador to teach us about your culture. I said, okay. And then actually the next, seminar time, he came and said, do you remember what I said to you earlier the other day? I said, yes. He said, I was wrong. Who am I to say that to you? We should be good ambassadors to you in order to... And then he visited me at my place. We had baklava and Saudi coffee, and we talked about, translation of poetry because he's a hippie. He was so into Sufism and Rumi,
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he asked me, a lot of questions. We are still in touch via email. So I think what he said, that I should be a good ambassador, then he regretted that a little bit and said that he should,
it's a good
as a
catch
society,
on his part.
That's really, even traveling for tourism, for pleasure. If you consider yourself as a tourist, a customer, and everything should serve you, then you will not have fun. If you want to have fun, just go there and be human and just be yourself. Be nice to people, and they will have no other chance except to be nice to you. There is no way.
I think that's a golden rule. I like it. Thank you. And I have I would say a perfect experience in the States, and I've noticed how kind and how they are open to create the dialogues, not only conversations. I think the key here is not to just have a conversation; it's actually to have a dialogue, to talk about things that matters to both parties, and go from there. So, Dan, what do you think actually nurtured this relationship for this long, for 20 years? Was the culture part of it, or at least, is it still part of it? I mean, the culture items, the culture nuggets, things that, are you still talking about things that, in your country, in my country, and those kind of things? Or do you think it's no longer surfacing like before? The way I assume is the beginning of the relationship, there will be a lot of differences. So there will be a lot of questions, a lot of curiosity about both cultures. But did it actually help later on in the relationship?
Well, I mean, I think so. I think that...
But now I correct your English.
That's right.
Yes.
He speaks better English than me now. It's a real struggle over here, especially with this guy.
This guy.
For the listeners back home. Where my mind is going with that question, Hamad played a role, whether or not he knows it, in my interest in the Middle East. So he and I met, excuse me, I'm sorry, before I sort of decided to focus on, with my liberal arts undergraduate degree, have sort of a Middle Eastern studies focus where I studied the Arabic language, moved to Cairo, Egypt, Al-Qahira, and that was all instrumental. And of course, Egyptians say they're, right or wrong, they say they're Egyptian, they're not Middle Eastern, they're not African, they're their own category. So that's it. But for somebody who's not from that part of the world at all, right? You do learn a lot about culture and the nuance and the differences, etc. But fast forward 20 years later, and I think even today at some point I made comments about just, it's one thing to be relatively advanced compared to, let's just say, the average American on knowledge about this part of the world. It's another thing to be here on the ground interacting with Saudis and to try to tune in on some cultural things that maybe, because I'm not from here, that I think I'm picking up on something, but I don't necessarily know exactly the best way to handle it, or maybe not the best word, but, participate with that or what have you.
So you've been here for about a week now?
Yes.
And what are your observations? Like, just give me 3 observations if you want. Other than being hospitable.
Yeah.
What else?
Of one that quite naturally comes to mind, as generic as it sounds, was genuinely just how big Riyadh is.
So Chicago.
Because in my mind, Doha, right?
Yeah.
And flying in at night, just so happened the path that we entered, the approach, I had a right window seat, and I'm looking out the window, and we are right down beneath me is I don't know the name of the road, the main north-south
the ring
strip
road.
that what's the tall tower called?
King Fahd Road. King Fahd Road. Yes.
We're parallel with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just keeps going and going. And I see all these buildings and these fancy lights, and probably some of them were like Boulevard World, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. I was just like, wow, this is big. So that's one that comes to mind readily. And then other than the warmth and the hospitality, which is a big one, by the way, other observations, I think seeing, because of Hamad and other Saudi friends and many conversations way back when, and reading, etc., I'm aware of the differences, relatively speaking, right, from my vantage point at least, of the kingdom when we met versus the kingdom today. So even though I didn't visit previously, in my mind, I do keep thinking like, this feels like being in Doha. Like, I was looking on my phone earlier today at like prices for apartments and homes, and just to get a sense, and asking about neighborhoods and, good neighborhoods, bad neighborhoods in between, right? Just things I don't know about. So I am struck by in a sense, it's like in my mind, it's like it's always been this way kind of a feeling, but of course it hasn't. And so it feels that warmth, that hospitality, the size, the options, it seems really good.
I have to agree with you, especially about the size of Riyadh. I remember one time my wife came from Mecca, and she lived in Mecca for about 2 years after the UK. And before that, we used to live in Belfast. And Belfast is relatively, it's big enough, small enough, so you can do whatever you want in 15 minutes. So she came here for a weekend before, we were just building our house, and she just wanted to see the house and so on. I remember she called me, and she was crying, like sobbing, crying. And in my head, I was thinking that maybe because it's a new neighborhood, maybe something happened to the kids. What's happening? And I was like, calm down, what's happening? Just explain to me, use your words, And she was like, Riyadh is so big, the traffic is so bad. I've been spending about 3 to 4 hours just going between back and forth, and I cannot handle it. I'm like, yeah, speaking about a person who lived in Riyadh and knows Riyadh, it's like, just you need to learn how to adjust with that. Just listen to a podcast. Maybe I can send you an episode or something.
And that's a good one. Now, of course, now that you said
selling
it,
your product.
Yeah, I mean, if you miss me, maybe you can just listen to one of my episodes, or
you can call me and talk to me live. Like right now.
But people will know that I'm not a very good husband. She will be complaining a lot. I travel a lot, and I'm lucky, to be honest. I'm supported by my family, to be honest. Sometimes I work for 20 hours and sometimes I come to a house just to sleep, and then before they wake up, I leave the house. But hopefully that's a phase that I'm going to work beyond that and be more involved in my life, in my personal life.
Yes, that's important.
But even without, friends taking him here and there, Daniel went alone to Bjeri, Diriyah area, and went to Boulevard World alone. I know these places are accessible anyway, but still,
You enjoyed the
Ubered around a couple different spots. It was
Did you use your name, or
sorry?
Do you use your name in the Uber app, or? For me, I transfer it to Fahda, not Fahad, just to make sure that they accept more, because they will think that I'm a female.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I do have my name.
Sometimes they do that trick because they accept the trip, and they will see the name is Fahad. They say like no, but then I change it sometimes to just add like one more letter, and they will think that I'm a female. So sometimes I get more. So
you get a quicker pickup rate if you're a female.
Yeah, because they will think that I'm trapped. No, they will think as a man, they think that you've got your own car and you can help yourselves. But if it's a female, they feel that it's more like a duty. They need to be there. They cannot wait in the sun.
That's interesting because my very first Uber ride here, which happened pretty quick, like within 3 minutes. And I mean, in terms of we found a driver and they're on their way.
If you're in the airport, usually it's very quick.
Yeah, it wasn't there.
Okay.
So it was somewhere in the city.
Yeah.
And they came and it was a female driver.
Yeah.
And that struck me because I was thinking, being a little bit aware, right? I'm a man sitting in this car and that seemed different and modern and new. And, this woman is driving, etc. It was great. It's fine. Fast forward a day or two later and I could not get an Uber to pick me up from Boulevard World at I don't know, maybe it was midnight or 12:30. People everywhere. And I was like, it was getting bad because my battery was dying. And I was like, what is going on? And then I was like, wait a minute. I see the green taxis. I'm just going to go out and flag one. And that worked. But what you just said makes me wonder if they
I think with Boulevard, is it because it's a lot of traffic. So the Uber drivers will just avoid being there because they're going to spend
leaving
a
at
lot
once.
of time. They will stuck. So I think Boulevard World is just because
of demand, like the airport, right? I figured people would be like, there's a lot of people there.
The airport has their own designated area where they can wait and surface.
So it's more convenient.
Yes. But, Boulevard World, especially when everyone is leaving the Boulevard or if there's something happening around that area, especially football games, Hilal games, for example, their arena, they call it the Kingdom Arena, is in Boulevard. And then Joy Awards, for example, if it happens, that area will be completely blocked by cars. So I think in that specific situation, it's not about the name. It's more about
okay, good to know.
They don't want to be there.
See, I'm learning.
So, yeah, but one of the tricks that you can do is just cross the street to where you see it less traffic. Because so sometimes they will not accept from this side because they know to reach this point they need to take a full tour, and sometimes literally it takes them 40 minutes.
So knowing even the flow, and
yes,
that's helpful to drop your pin.
Yes,
in the right
drop
spot.
It in. Sometimes just if you move your
that's
pin
helpful.
5 minutes away, especially across the street or somewhere, it might help.
Okay,
and maybe change it to Daniela.
Pro
maybe
tip.
It might help.
Is it the same spelling, Daniel?
Well, I can't answer that.
You can?
No, I'm kidding.
No, I think they were
Daniela?
not.
No, not Daniela. Danielle. Yes.
No, it would have another L and an E.
Okay.
Anywho, speaking about something else, how did you see the Liwan, by the way, since we are kind of on the margin of Liwan?
Yeah.
So how did you feel when you were there? By the way, everyone there translates and interprets. So
yes.
it's just a pure
Hamad
translation
gave
community.
me the heads up, that I was his guest, obviously, and even though this isn't my field, but I felt very comfortable. I felt very honored to, get a gift, and everyone was very kind, and I just tried to pick up on some little bit of Arabic here and there, and several people came up and had some short conversations with them, and it was great.
It is a very
cold.
fascinating. Sorry,
it was cold.
It was cold, yeah. But it's nice that they gave us some scarves, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although they weren't, lots of people didn't know that they had a scarf with them in the box.
Yeah, but I think Abdurrahman announced that.
Yes,
later.
So, yeah. But I think they thought about it and they gave you scarves or gave everyone, including me. I didn't know it's a scarf until they announced it.
Yeah.
But that was, nice.
You were in a beautiful tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were in the room that was
actually
overheating,
your camera got heated. That's
right.
how warm
you sucked the heat from outside into your room.
Yes.
And by the way, if you noticed that I was walking with this top very light one, it's just because I don't think it was cold. Sorry, guys. So I lived in Belfast.
I think during winter time.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think during winter time, Saudis should be, charged if they're wearing white thobes.
Why?
Just because.
To me, I honestly love the weather right now. To me, this is the perfect weather.
It's nice weather.
Yes,
Yeah.
to me it's I mean, even when people complain that it's cold, for me that's perfect. It's just the sweet. My
Well,
sweet
the
spot.
sun here, at least since I've been here, the sun is warm.
Yeah.
So you're in the sun and it feels warm.
Yes.
Not hot, but warm.
But yes,
and then you go in the shade and it feels, because it's so dry, I think,
Yes.
it feels
and the wind
chilly.
is cold itself now.
Yes.
I mean, yes. In what is a little bit special about the winter in Riyadh is you can feel the wind is actually cold. It's chilling, or even if you still have a sun, shining and so on.
I mean, it's no Champagne.
And
Illinois,
it's not Champagne.
but
Illinois Champagne is.
the wind kicks in and you like drop.
I witnessed that actually in Australia. I mean, the difference between being under the sun or in the shade, it's really big.
Substantial.
Yeah, it's in Australia. I mean, if you sit outside of a coffee shop and you're in the shade and your friend is not, then maybe he's wearing only a t-shirt and you need a jacket.
Yes.
Yes.
That different.
Yeah.
Also, today was the Riyadh Marathon, and it was hot.
I know we ran it.
Yeah, I
No,
saw you
we
guys there.
didn't.
I can vouch for you.
Yeah.
But,
I saw you there. Yes.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, I saw you there, guys. Yeah, you were wearing the orange,
No,
t-shirt.
with the
and you too.
With
I
the
think your number
thing.
was in the 20,000s. Your number was in the 40,000s.
I had a number. He had a number. We were both in orange.
And I was running with my thobe. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was wool, and I was like, "That's not. Is it?"
Yeah. And what I wanted to say is, what's funny is it's now very cold, but during like 11 a.m. it was sunny, and because it was so sunny, it was hot. It was hot. There was no cloud today, and it was to me it was hot. It was summer hot. It wasn't just. It's not Saudi summer hot because I have to be careful.
Well, Saudi summer hot is like its own special category.
Yes.
So it starts to get like hot. What I would think of as hot. What, March, April?
Yeah, sometimes.
May, I would say May was, at least in Riyadh, I would say May, which is like more than 35 Celsius.
So May for sure is hot. April.
Yeah, but
Depends.
still doable hot.
Yes.
Okay.
Not.
So July through September is
June,
like
I would say starting from June.
June through September is like stay
Yes.
inside.
Live in boxes. That's how the way I'd like to describe it. In Riyadh, we live in boxes. So you live in a house, it's AC.
Right.
If you go to a car, it's AC.
Box to box to box.
Yes,
Yeah.
even the bus stations are AC.
Yeah. It's the same in Doha.
Yes,
But still, people
glasses instantly fog up there.
walk. I mean,
Yes.
people complain about things like now we have this public transportation system, and people sometimes complain, "Oh, you can't walk to this station." But people, used to walk a lot. People, I mean, men walk 5 times a day to the mosque. Whether it's,
Was there a car in the parking lot to that?
No.
Sometimes,
Sometimes
if
we
it's,
really
inside
walk.
the neighborhood is actually
Yes, sometimes it's distance,
Okay.
and it didn't harm anyone. But maybe people.
Do people use umbrellas or some sort of sun covering when they're walking?
not men.
No, we haven't. I mean,
So I would stand out if I
in
was
Saudi
walking
Arabia-
and used an
No, that's
umbrella.
okay. No.
in Saudi Arabia, I have seen that only in Hajj.
Yes.
Okay.
In Hajj, because people
Because you-
need
yeah.
to walk a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hot.
And you
So,
gotta suck it up
yeah.
and use the umbrella.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, it's not a normal thing to see every single day. However, since about 2 years now, it's you've seen it more often because people prepare that they gonna be walking, going to the station, going to the bus, going to that's how they know. But before that, I would say maybe the reason is because we think that we will be parked, somewhere near, and we'll suck it for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes walk or 5 minutes, even if it's longer than that. We'll just not use it. Also, do not forget the national dress for men include kind of an umbrella.
That's true.
The shimak. So
That's true.
yes. So if it's too hot, you just make sure that it covers, good portion of your head,
The sun's
and
not
then you
hitting
can
your
also
skin.
make sure it's on the side so you don't receive sun. So that's kind of it gives a functionality like umbrella.
Yeah.
And for most of women,
need to
they
borrow
do
your phone.
have the hijab. Even if it's not covering their face all the time, but sometimes they do have the hijab, even if they are not that, even if they don't use it actively, but during summer, it helps.
Yeah.
So because at least to shade some of the, so I think that's one of the reasoning that's why we are not really using umbrellas much, because our national dress
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of works.
Which
with that.
came or evolved or what have you out of
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasoning. But I've been seeing more umbrellas since the metro and so on happened. My mom, for example, just uses an umbrella every time she goes out, especially if it's in noon and it's sunny. My wife too. It's normal, but we don't see it much.
Yeah.
It's not like London. If you're stuck, you just stop at anywhere and you'll find an umbrella, because they will. It's something common. Here it's not that common, but you do see a lot of people.
By the way, I had a very big umbrella in Eugene.
I was going to say, so did I.
I had a very big umbrella, and they used it as a stick and umbrella, and it was the ducks one.
Yes.
With ducks on it?
I remember.
The
Oregon Ducks.
The Oregon Ducks. This is the football team or the sports team of
Is
the
it hockey?
university.
Ducks, is it hockey or?
They have the popular one is American football, but
Okay.
Yeah, everyone actually at the University of Oregon in Eugene is a duck somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you say that?
But that's what the student population is called. But mostly it's like more popular when it comes to sport. But once a duck, always a duck.
and then you're a duck or a beaver, right?
Yeah.
That's the friendly competition.
Because there is a little town called Corvallis, not far away from Eugene, and their team was called the Beavers. And when the Beavers, plays against the Ducks, then it's the Civil War in Oregon.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Which sounds very violent, right? Beavers versus ducks.
Yeah.
No, not
Who usually wins?
Actually,
the ducks.
Okay, that's good.
I said to one American, I don't remember where, but I said I was in Oregon. I said, "Are you a beaver?" He did not mean the team, actually. He meant like the real beaver. Like there is no reason to visit Oregon. I said there are lots of reasons to visit Oregon. Yes.
Are you planning to move to Riyadh?
I'm considering it.
You should. It's nice. I'm one of the believers that it's going to be the future of the area, and even for Saudi.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there really is truly so much happening here. And we were even talking about the expo, the World Expo 2030.
Yes, and you don't know how much I was happy when you asked me about. You ask about kids, the compounds, the areas to live. You ask these questions, and I'm just, he's coming, maybe.
So now it's on you to make sure that facilitate whatever, and me, if you want, I can help whatever I can.
I appreciate that.
If you're moving,
He's
to
got more important friends. Don't worry.
No, I mean, I've lived in all
business
parts of Riyadh, so I know a
conversations.
lot of places in Riyadh. In terms of, I lived in at least 3 areas in Riyadh. So the north.
No, I mean, it's always, if and when it gets more serious, it's speaking of language and friendship, it's important to, right? If you were moving to where I live now, I would want you to reach out and say, hey, here's my budget window. Where are some of the best neighborhoods? Well, what does best mean to you? Do you have children? Right,
Yes.
etc. To see, and I can give recommendations. So yeah, thank you. That's important.
Well, thank you very much for being in this episode. To be honest, when Hamad was talking about you, I was thinking, how can I frame this episode? And I said, we need to celebrate about friendship, culture, languages, and all of them that can actually bring people to be friends and to be true international citizen. So thank you very much for accepting this invitation, for being with us, for being in Liwan. So for the audience who don't know, we originally should have filmed this at Hamish and Liwan itself. However, what happened is we ran out of time. It was a little bit cold. And so we decided to pick it up another day where we have more energy and have more time, and to give this episode its time. So thank you again. Would you like
Pleasure.
to close with anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind is on the topic of friendship and international and showing up, or being more international, rather, is the phrase that or the word combination I just used, which is showing up. And what I mean by that is you have to be willing to, it starts with a gesture, responding, showing up for tea, for coffee, and then, I guess the point I'm trying to make, not very well here, is that you have to show up. You have to be willing to participate and go. And if you just stay, whatever that means to you as the listener or you guys, if you just stay, how will you know? You have to go. And maybe that means across town. Maybe that means to the coffee shop. Maybe that means to Riyadh, and you have to be willing to go, to show up and participate. And that's really important. And I think it's in contrast to being in an increasingly, in my opinion, what I refer to as a left brain, analytical kind of world we live in, data driven. I think it's going to be optimistically easier to stand out being human. Yeah, I mean that in a positive way, because you can't replicate this in AI, like truly. You can replicate a lot of things, and it can be really useful, and it is, and it will continue to be. But AI doesn't show up, right? It just doesn't.
What about you, Hamad? Would you like to conclude with something?
Actually, just by chance, this morning I was watching the show. I love shorts on YouTube. And I watched this, video that some friend had a problem and then, blamed the other friend who wasn't there for them. And then he said, but you didn't call me or said that you needed me. And then the other person said, I texted you, hi, what are you doing tonight, or something like that. And then the idea is this person didn't want to make a big deal, waiting for a response, and the other person didn't show up. But in friendship, usually showing up, this is what was said in the video, showing up for 8 minutes is all what you need. So they had this code between them afterwards about the 8-minute thing.
8 minutes.
So and because this and this is just off topic, because this is on the margin of Liwan, which is in the area of translation. When I first actually arrived in Eugene, I was listening on my laptop in the classroom before the class started. No one was there, to some recitation of poetry. And the teacher came in and she said, what are you listening to? And they said, some poetry. She said, can you translate that? My English was really bad. And I tried to translate some of it. And it was kind of, do you say eulogy for poetry? If you compose poetry about someone who's dead, like in the honor of...
eulogy.
Eulogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a commemoration of someone passed.
Exactly. So it was by Ali radiallahu anh. It's narrated like that. Ali about his wife Fatima radiallahu anha. And then when I tried to translate with that poor English, she cried, the teacher.
Wow.
And I said, how come we believe that, poetry, doesn't, accept translation? Because this is a common thing. And, if it affects someone this much with poor language and the feeling, transferred somehow, and then this beauty between nations, between languages, between cultures should be really translated. And, I'm fascinated with the practice of poetic translation. And I do practice that myself. And I love it. And I love languages in general. And I remember one of my professors said once, he said, we are human and we are stuck with language. So it's not a choice. So keep the conversation according to the, meaning, the original meaning. Keep the conversation going on and don't stop talking. Whether it's business, whether it's friendship, whether it's, politics, whether it's whatever, and also maybe somehow, because this is now a concept that people speak about, the global citizenship, which is kind of a set of maybe values or principles or, because nowadays, yes, you belong to a specific area, you have the passport of a specific area, but being a global citizen, being a good human being anywhere is something else that represent even that specific area. So being an ambassador of your culture. Other than that, thank you so much, Fahad, for having us, really.
Thank you.
Welcome. So on that note, for showing up, keep the conversation going, create friends, and make sure that they visit Riyadh. From Riyadh, or from Riyadh's winter into its warm, hot. This is Fahad Al-Hadroul. I was with you in on the margin of الليوان على هامش الليوان. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for all the support that you've been very generous with me and providing me with that support. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Hopefully we'll show up for you and we'll keep the conversation going into more interesting topics that takes the intersection of language, cultures, friendship, anything that could involve a human being could be part of our shows. Thank you very much again.